Woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil sends the beast with wrath, because he knows the time is short. Let him who hath understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is a human number. Its number is 666.
Hello, welcome to the Freeman Perspective. I got an interesting show planned for you tonight. So let's start it with the phrase, he who controls the past controls the present. So who controls the past? Well, let's have a look at our world analogous to Disney World. So Disney World as a microcosm of the real world today. I must recognize that Walt Disney was a fine Freemason from Kansas. And Disney Co. is one of the top 5 corporations that control all media. But let's think about this now. Controlling the media, controlling what we think, what's programmed into our brains, and how we react to the world, how we see the world, how we want to think about the world is all generated through this box. Well, right now, today, 7 Jewish Americans, and they're Khazarian Jews, run the vast majority of U.S. television networks. So we have Gerald Levin, who is CEO and director of AOL Time Warner, who's, of course, their symbol is the eye in the pyramid and the eye of Ra. Then we have Michael Eisner. He's known as the devil there in Florida. He's chairman and CEO of the Walt Disney Corporation. And then Edgar Bronfman Sr., who is chairman of Seagrin Company Limited. Edgar Bronfman Jr., who is CEO of the Seagrin Company and Universal Studios. Summer Redstone, chairman of the Viacom. Dennis Dammerman, vice chairman of General Electric. And Peter Sharon, president of the News Corporation, which, of course, controls Fox and a number of other. So what I'm showing you here is that 7 people who claim Judaism as their religion are in control of all our media. So, but is it really the Jews? Does this really have something to do with the line of Abraham or the line of Shem? Or is there something deeper going on here that has to do with this symbol behind me, the Star of David? Well, let's look at Disney World, okay? Now, the FBI Special Agent E.E. Conroy contacted Disney as early as November of 1940 after several attempts by J. Edgar Hoover to get Disney to join the FBI. Now, the reasons that they wanted Disney for the FBI were stated in one of their own memos, saying that because of Mr. Disney's position as the foremost producer of cartoon films in the motion picture industry and his prominence and wide acquaintanceship in the film production matters, it is believed that he can be of valuable assistance to the FBI office, and therefore it is my recommendation that he be approved as a SAC contact, which that is a service contract for the FBI. So now, this is just letting you know right off that the media is controlled. The media is telling you what to think and how to think. So now, of course, Walt Disney was a fine Freemason, and that probably had a lot to do with his position. And we're going to get into a little deeper with that and some more symbolism so that you guys can understand just how much they actually control. And I'm talking about the Freemasons. So, I actually sat at J. Edgar Hoover's desk at the Temple of the 33rd, Supreme Mother Council of the World in Washington, D.C. And I played around with his gold-plated phone, and I checked out his boxing gloves and all the stuff there. They had a lot of interesting things there at that temple. I highly recommend going there. If you're ever in D.C., the Temple of the 33rd is the first American public library. So right there, controlling what information gets out to the people and how much they want to keep for themselves. But it's still a public library, so you can go there, visit all you like. They gave me the whole tour. It was pretty cool. But, of course, they showed up with my grandfather's membership card, stamped dead. Yeah, you probably can't see that. That's okay. Don't worry about it, Chuck. All right. So, they brought out my grandfather's membership card to make sure I said who I was and that my family was all related to the Freemasons. And then they handed me these books, which I'm going to read you a little bit of tonight, Morals and Dogma and the Glossary to Morals and Dogma, and, of course, my father's Worshipful Master Bible. So now, to consider Disney as a microcosm of our world, we look at Disney and everything there is beautiful and perfect and well-maintained and all made to be seemingly perfect, right? But you're not allowed to touch anything. You can't go anywhere. I used to get thrown out of Disney all the time because I'm a playful kid, and I would jump off the rides because I want to touch things. I want to play with things. This is the stuff I'd like to do. I got all this cool stuff in front of me, and then I got Big Brother slapping me on the wrist telling me I can't touch it. Of course, Big Brother being Disney at this time, or Michael Eisner. And I'll tell you, there's some stories in Florida about Eisner that makes him out to be a sinister man. So now if you go to Disney and you start riding all those rides, it used to be that you got individual tickets for each ride, and you could go in there and then you have to give an e-ticket to get on, say, Space Mountain or something. But now it's all just one card. You got your Disney ID and you get right in. And you can ride whatever you like. But all of the rides at Disney World are sponsored by military-industrial corporations. And I'm beginning to believe military-industrial extraterrestrial corporations. We'll get more of that over the year. So if you go and you jump on the dinosaur ride that's telling you all about how oil is found and how the dinosaurs died to bring us oil, which, of course, we're learning that might not be true, this ride is sponsored by Exxon. So Exxon has a ride at Disney that shows you dinosaurs. And, of course, Exxon's symbol is the double cross of the Templars, which is a Freemason symbol today. If you go on Space Mountain, now Space Mountain is sponsored by RCA, who is a head research and development for the military. And they make you your TVs and whatnot. And, of course, everything that we get comes from the military first. So keep that in mind. All those cars you're driving around, those things are based off of the military, off of war machines. So Space Mountain you get, and you go ride your great little ride, and you get off the ride, and they take you down this little moving walkway. And along the way, you're shown what the future will be. And so you get to learn about having your television be your teacher, or having your they had these big hydroponic gardens growing in the kitchens. We never did get the Jetsons kitchen, did we? Yeah, well, he who controls this, you're going to start to learn. So then finally, as you're exiting RCA Space Mountain, you will find that you yourself are on TV, much like I am today. And can you see how this is analogous to our world today, as these people are creating these rides, or what we call life, and we're not really allowed to control or touch any of it. We're not allowed to play with anything, and everything is controlled by an overlord that is unseen, very much like Disney. Well, as I started this, I say he who controls the past controls the present. Well, as you see, Disney was taken on by the FBI to give us faulty information. So when I learned about the American Revolution in school, they showed me a film by Disney, and it was called The Sons of Liberty, which, of course, Liberty is our goddess Columbia. So you could say the Sons of Columbia. And, of course, those are the Freemasons. The Sons of Liberty was a depiction of the American Revolution, and it shows Paul Revere's historic ride And of course, Paul Revere was a Freemason. And then it goes on to show, finally, with the climax of the Boston Tea Party, as men come out of their building and dressed themselves up as Native Americans. Of course, they called them Indians back then. And came and threw all the tea off the English boats into the water to spark this taxation war. Well, of course, the little part, and this is really the crux of the whole thing, is that they gave you all this information, but they leave the key ingredients out. So the key ingredient in that story, in the whole story of the American Revolution and the War of Independence, was that those men didn't come out of any simple building. Those men came out of a Freemason temple. Yes, it was the Freemasons that threw all the tea into the water and sparked this war. But you must recognize that the Freemasons run both sides of the spectrum. So when we were fighting the British, we weren't fighting the British. This was a Freemason contrivance to cause an effect within the world. So I know that's a hard pill to swallow, that both sides were dying for nothing. Well, it wasn't for nothing. It was for the Freemasons, so that they could control what we have today. So I'd like to read you a little excerpt from the Freemason Bible here. Yeah, that's kind of neat. And this is about Joseph Brant. Now, who was Joseph Brant? He was a Mohawk Indian who was made a Mason in London in 1776. During the War of American Independence, he was in command of some of the Indian troops on the British side. Catching that? By whom Captain McKinstry of the United States Army had been captured. So Mohican Indians fighting for the British Freemasons had captured Captain McKinstry of the United States Army. The Indians had tied their prisoner to a tree and were preparing to torture him when he made the mysterious appeal of a Mason in the hour of danger. Now, I could show that to you, but they might kill me. Brant interposed and rescued his American brother. So now Brant, being an English Freemason, rescuing his American Freemason brother from his impending fate, and took him to Quebec and placed him in the hands of some English Masons there, who returned him uninjured to the American outposts. All right? Do you see that? You know, all right? They don't kill one another. They don't even put one another in jail. So let's, I was telling you they might kill me for giving you a little bit of their information. Let's read about Mrs. Beaton here. And for what was this woman noted? I found this one kind of interesting. She is purported to have learned the secrets of Freemasonry by concealing herself in the wainscoting closet of a lodge room in Norfolk, England, where she resided. But the notable fact about this whole incident is that she died without ever having divulged to a living person the secrets which she thus learned. Well, that's kind of a... well, that could seem like maybe she just held her tongue, but at the same time, they might just be hitting us with a bit of a clue as to what they do to those that tell us what they know. Much like Captain Morgan, who has been kept famous through the rum, was ritually murdered by the Freemasons because he wrote a book that told all about it, and I didn't bring that book with me. So I like to frequent temples. I like to go to all the Mason temples that I come across, and I watch the little advertisements in the newspaper, and if the Masons are having a lunch or an ice cream gathering, which I've been to, I like to go, so it's open to the public. Let's go to the temple, right? Well, I'll get in there and I'll tell them a bit about who I am and who my father was, and they'll start to open up to me a little bit. Well, these one brothers at this one lodge in, I believe it was Kansas, started trying to, convince me that I should join the Freemasons. And their appeals to me were, Well, no, you don't understand. You see, I was in the military. Now, this is the Freemason talking to me. I was in the military, and I wasn't a Mason at the time. But then I saw how much easier it was for the brethren that had their little special ring, and so I went ahead and I signed up. Now, to say you signed up, that means that you stood in front of the Masonic altar and swore to cut your throat across, rip your tongue out by its roots, and bury it in the rough sands of the sea at low water mark where the tide ebbs and flows twice in 24 hours should you ever knowingly or willingly violate this at your solemn oath and obligation as an entered apprentice Mason. That's the first one. Maybe one of these days I'll give you all of them. So, this guy joined the Freemasons, swore at the altar, and now he got a nice cushy ride in the military. He found that he was supposed to be sent to this one particular outpost, but they suddenly changed his papers, and he was sent to a different outpost, and strangely enough, all the people that where he was supposed to go all died. He was spared from that. And this man was telling me that I should join the Freemasons so that I didn't die in war. Then they went on to tell me about the Freemasons in Russia who were spared being sent to Siberia and got to survive because of their Masonic ring in Russia. Now recognize that the Freemasons are not an American thing. This is a worldwide group working for a worldwide domination. They're merely one arm, certainly, but the biggest arm, and I'm going to show you a little bit of that later. So, if you could see that, I mean, some people might think, oh, well, heck, I'm going to go run and join the Freemasons if I don't die in war, if I don't have to go to jail, if I don't have, they have a choice. If you've done treason or murder, then they can put you in jail. But other than that, typically you won't go into jail if you give the high sign of a Mason in distress. This is really where my fault lies with the Freemasons. I've read Morals and Dogma. And it is a fantastic book. It is chivalrous and knightly and all the things could be good in society and humanity. And yet, I see that these men have control over a great portion of our lives. Well, pretty much control our entire existence. And I disagree with this. I disagree that if you go into a temple and swear your blood oath that you should get these special rights and privileges simply for swearing to their god Jabulon. I disagree with the idea of having an elite group, especially when I see members of the order. Now Skull and Bones is a separate order from Freemasonry, but it's still all one unit. This is an occultic unit, and that's one thing that we really got to look at and to understand why these men are spared death. So we're going to get into some symbolism on that. So, what they're doing is directing civilization according to their design, which they call the Great Work. And this is symbolized by the pyramid on the dollar bill and has the eye floating above the pyramid, meaning a work in progress. So we can see some of the same logic, but reversed in Hollywood today with, say, Mel Gibson. I'm absolutely positive this man is a Freemason, although I have no proof. I have no documentation saying that he is. But if we look at his movies, we can start to glean a little bit of what's going on. Because if you recognize that the whole movie Braveheart was actually the story of the Templars coming to Robert the Bruce, and finding sanctity there from the Pope Clement V and the King of France, I think it was Philip. They were, trying to kill off all of the Templars, and so the Templars ran up into Scotland and Ireland, and then now we know of them as the York Rite and the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. So now Braveheart gives you the whole story, but it leaves out the fact that they're Templars. Or The Patriot. Very similar. We got a war effort going on. We've got the things going on. The piece left out of the puzzle is that the lead character is a Freemason. You got to understand Jim Bowie was a Freemason. Sam Houston was a Freemason. Stephen F. Austin was a Freemason. So they leave this portion out of the story. They give you only enough to what so that you have an idea. So let's take one more of Mel Gibson's movies, Lethal Weapon. I was there at the filming of Lethal Weapon when they were in Orlando, and they blew up City Hall. Now, it says here that Joel Silver, the producer, gladly paid $165,000 to the Orlando City Council to blow up City Hall. Of course, I was sitting right across the street because I wanted to see City Hall go down. But then they erected a new City Hall, and it was this monstrosity. I mean, this building is like, computer designed, trying to be Gothic, just ugly. I didn't like it. But the interesting thing is that they put this big, it kind of looked like an asparagus out in front of the building. And people were like, oh, what are they doing, because they paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for this giant glowing asparagus. Well, just to let you know who and what that asparagus was, right next to it are two humps with water gushing in there. So we have our phallic symbols going up, very much like our Capitol Dome and the clock tower. So now you know who runs City Hall. Don't believe me? Go down to your courthouse and have a look at who built the courthouse and what the date to the courthouse is, which was 5,000, God, I don't remember the one here, 5,990, somewhere, no, it's probably older than that, 5,960. But see, that's the Anno Lucis calendar, the Age of Light, whereas we go by the Anno Domini calendar. So the year of the Lord is 2006. The year of Lucifer, or Light Bearer, the Age of Light, is the year 6006. So you just add 4,000 years to the calendar, and you got the Anno Lucis date, which, of course, strangely enough, dates right back to the Tower of Babel. So let's have a little look at who controls our planet. I'm giving you a little clues there as to, all of the famous people that you hear about will be a Freemason. I can guarantee that. So, Shag, if you want to show this real quick. Where is it? The cube. Yes. Right there. Very simple symbol, but to the Masons has a lot of meaning. This is a symbol of the perfect ashlar, or cubical stone, the symbol of perfection in the state. The rulers deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. That's us. The profane is another word they call for us. The Constitution and laws speaking the will of the people. Yeah. Do you still believe that? The government harmonious, symmetrical, efficient, its powers properly distributed and distributed, and duly adjusted in equilibrium. This is the symbol of the cube. So, of course, now you'll see that the cube is the symbol of chevron. The cube is the symbol of fox. The cube is the symbol of gateway. The cube is the symbol, and it goes on and on. All right. Well, the cube is also a symbol of Cisco. And if we look at the cube, we'll see a number of their symbols on this one. So we have the cube itself. And then the cube in a three-dimensional or 2D plane gives you an oblong square, which is the footing position that the Masons stand in when they're standing before the worshipful master. They must stand with their body erect, their feet forming the angle of an oblong square. Then we see this little co, because this is Cisco, right? And the co actually makes the moon and the sun, which are symbols of Osiris and Isis. So then you see ISIS being Isis, right? So you got your oblong square, your Isis, your symbol of Horus and Osiris and Isis, and then of course the Y, which is a symbol of their Trinity. So all the symbols within Cisco are actually represented later on, so that you find that the Trinity, or the Y, is symbolized by ABC, and this is why ABC doesn't have a logo. Then she's also symbolized by the phoenix, which is now the peacock because of the eye, and that is the symbol of the goddess, which is MBC, and then of course the eye, which is the devil in Hebrew, and Columbia Broadcasting is the I. Let's move on to a few more of these little Masonic clues, because what you're going to find is that these symbols run rampant. Now, one that had been confusing me a little bit, and I actually confused it with the oblong square, was the canted square. Now, in the beginning of this show, I showed the swastika of Hitler. Now, originally, the swastika was a straight square, but Hitler took it and he turned it, right? Gave it a canted square. And in my my video on corporate logos, I actually had kept the canted square in with the oblong square, and that was not right. So I knew I would find the answer, and I knew I would find it within the 47th postulate of Euclid, or proposition. So if we can show that real quick, Chad. And what you'll see here is the right triangle. And what happens is you use the Pythagorean or Euclid's 47th proposition to determine a perfect squared angle on the right angle. So whereas the one square and the other square equal the area of the third square on the hypotenuse. Now, the canted square, good God, that's a symbol of everybody's. Let's see, it's on Dos Equis, it's on Texas Gas Company. Man, the canted square. Well, think about Domino Pizza. Now, Domino's Pizza, red, white, and blue. We may get to that today. I'm not sure, but that's the color of the canted square on Domino's Pizza. But of course, it has 1, 2, 3, the Trinity as well. So you see, it's got the red, white, and blue, which actually goes back to Venus, and each color has a separate meaning, but the red, white, and blue are the colors of Venus as it enters the temple on the solstice. And so that's where the red, white, and blue, I believe, comes from. I'm still working on that. But so the 47th proposition of Euclid actually goes all the way back to Babylonian times and was even used in the construction of the pyramids, because they call it squaring the lodge. So they incorporate this canted square into their actual rituals within the Freemason temples. So in the English Book of Constitutions of the Freemasons in 1723, appears on the front piece is this 47th proposition, and it says, the amazing proposition which is the foundation of all Freemasonry. The diagram shown represents it as used by English Masons as early as 100 years ago. You will see that in order to get a correct square, it is only necessary to make a triangle, the sides of which shall be in the proportion of 3, 4, and 5. You see, so you got the 3, the 4, and then the hypotenuse being 5. In connection with this, it is of much interest to know that as the standard and symbol of perfection with speculative Freemasons, now these are the ones now speculative as opposed to operative Freemasons, are the ones that dabble in the occult, dabble in the magic. They're not building buildings. They're dealing with symbols and sacred geometry. So within speculative Masons is the square. And, of course, you will see many, many squares. It's the Home Depot, Wells Fargo. Here's an interesting one, Compass Bank. Compass Bank has a red square, which, of course, is the square in China, and it's all the same symbolism. So you got the red square with the compass C inside. So Compass Bank's symbol is the compass and square, which is, of course, the symbol of the Freemasons. Right? I don't know if this one will show up or not. Can you flash that one on there real quick, Shag? Well, they're not paying attention. The compass and square is the Freemason symbol there. So this right-angled triangle, which is almost identical, was with the Egyptians several thousand years ago, the standard and symbol of perfection. Now, of course, we're talking about the 47th postulate of Euclid, which I would show you if my assistant was paying any attention to me at this time. So the Egyptians several thousand years ago used this symbol, and they made it also the basis of their measurements. they looked on it as a symbol of universal nature, the side 4 being Osiris, the male principle, the 3, the female principle, Isis, and 5, Horus, the sun. The product of these two principles, they said, was 3, the first perfect odd number, 4, the square of 2, the first even number, and 5, the result of 3 and 2. In Freemasonry, the square is the symbol of moral perfection. It is the master's duty to apply the perfect square of right and truth to the work of the subordinates, but the far higher and greater responsibility rests with the past master. Now, the past master is given a badge that is the 47th proposition of Euclid. So applying what we know about the 47th problem, we can readily see that since entered apprentices reached the northeast corner of the lodge 3 times, because when you go into a lodge, and what they will do is they'll take you, they'll strip you bare, and they give you these old ratty pants to put on that have been worn by hundreds of Masons and never washed. And they'll roll up one pant leg, and they'll roll up one arm sleeve, and got you in these ratty pajamas with a blindfold, which they call a hoodwink, and a cable tow, which is a noose around your neck. And they will lead you into the temple, and then you'll have to what they call circumambulations, which are, basically doing circles around the altar in the middle of the lodge where this Bible stands. And so the entered apprentice circles this altar 3 times in the first degree. He's led around by a brother that is leading him on these path. And then the fellowcraft reaches the corner 4 times. So each time they go around, the fellowcraft will go around 4 times. And then finally, the master, the 3rd degree within Freemasonry, reaches it 5 times during their respective circumambulations. The candidates are, in fact, just as stated in the Texas Monitor, symbolically squaring the lodge. So now start to notice these simple symbols. I mean, they're very simple. A square, I mean, come on, you would think that's just something normal. But, of course, when you start to recognize the number of them, the American Express, Wells Fargo, Home Depot, the list goes on and on for the square, because they're leaving themselves messages. And what you're going to recognize as you start to look at all the corporate logos that you pass daily, every single one of these has an occultic meaning and symbol. So they're symbolically squaring the lodge by doing these circumambulations. And any Mason, after having been raised, and that means that you're raised to a master Mason, has reproduced the numbers 3, 4, and 5 in the most significant corner of the lodge, which is the northeast, and thereby has unknowingly recited with his feet the formula which is contained in the 47th problem of Euclid, and thereby squaring the lodge. Some will be little surprised by the discovery of a hidden relationship such as been described. One encounters such relationships often in Masonry. Indeed, the author will go one step further and state that there are hidden numerical relationships in many, if not all, ceremonies and symbols of Masonry. So now Albert Pike goes on to tell us that he has outlined all the different degrees within Freemasonry and wants to show just exactly how smart he is. So within the degrees, we have some answers, because Albert Pike wrote this all down. So are you paying attention in there, Shag? No. Okay. Hey, Shag. All right. I'm gonna just not show you any of this. Okay. So for the Grand Elect Perfect and Sublime Mason, this is the 15th degree of the Scottish Rite, and it says, "It is for each individual Mason to discover the secret of Masonry by reflection upon its symbols and a wise consideration and analysis of what is said and done in the work. Masonry does not inculcate her truths, she states them once and briefly, or hints them, perhaps darkly, or interposes a cloud between them and eyes that would be dazzled by them. Seek and you shall find." All right, well, we go on, and within the Night of the Brazen Serpent, which I'm not sure what number degree that is. That's a long one, I'll tell you. This one took me some time to read. He seemed to have found a lot of significance within the Night of the Brazen Serpent. And I'm just looking real quick to see what degree that is. 25. This degree is both philosophical and moral, he says. So he tells us that the ancient astronomers saw all the great symbols of masonry in the stars. Sirius still glitters from our lodges as the blazing star, which is the pentagram with fire. The sun is still symbolized by a point within a circle, which of course is target symbol. And the moon, or Mercury. Mercury, of course, is a car. Mercury, his special animal, of course, was the cougar. And Anubis as the three great lights in the lodge. But not only these, but to the figures and numbers exhibited by the stars. Now, I'm going to start looking at police cars and start noticing the number of lines and the number of points within the stars on the police cars. You're going to see a lot of OTO symbolism on our police. Were ascribed peculiar and divine powers. So they absolutely believe that these symbols do have an effect on you, that there is a power within them that will affect you. So all of the symbols around you, you're going to find are actually rituals or magical symbols that they are using in hopes of controlling you. Can you believe that? Now, I started this off with the Star of David. And I just want you to know that within most of the Freemason lodges that I've been to, the Star of David is prominent within there. And I even have a picture of them in my video with the guy in his whole Masonic pajamas with his arm rolled up and his leg rolled up and the cable toe and the blindfold and all, with the two Star of Davids in the back. Now, of course, these again are symbols of Osiris and Isis, and symbolizing as above, so below, and a number of other magical things which hopefully in some day I'll decipher. But typically inside of a Mason Lodge, the one pointing down is black and the one pointing up is white. I have some film of this I'll show you once I get my new computer. I can't wait to be able to show you guys this stuff. But in case you're curious and you don't believe me that Masonic, the Masons use Hebrew and that their whole system is based on the Kabbalah, the system of Hebrew mysticism, you're going to find now this is an interesting little, I'm just going to go ahead and read this whole thing because there's been a lot of talk about their connections with Lucifer. And I'm still trying to understand who Lucifer is. Right now I've got her connected to Venus. But the apocalypse is to those who receive the 19th degree, the apotheosis of the sublime faith, which aspires to God alone and despises all the pomps and works of Lucifer. Okay, that's what they tell you. Lucifer, the light bearer, strange and mysterious name to give to the spirit of darkness. Lucifer, the son of the morning. Is it he who bears the light? With its splendor intolerable blinds feeble, sensual, and selfish souls? Doubt it not, for traditions are full of divine revelations and inspirations, and inspiration is not of one age nor of one creed. I've shown you in my film on Columbia that Phoenix Pictures, and if you guys want to go to the freemanperspective.blogspot.com or just do a Google of the Freeman Perspective, all of this stuff is databased on my website. So the divine revelations of Lucifer. If you look at Phoenix Pictures, I've gone over this a couple of times, but Phoenix Pictures strikes a match, a friction match, which becomes the sun low on the horizon and burns up to the fiery phoenix. Of course, the original definition of Lucifer is a friction match. Go look it up in the dictionary or look it up on my website. I've got it on there with the dictionary. So they're striking a Lucifer, which becomes a phoenix after it becomes the sun, of course, which is target symbol. Okay. Once you decipher all these codes, you're going to start to realize everything is run by these occultists. And of course, Phoenix Pictures movies include cloning, Nazi worship, and child labor camps. In cooperation with Disney, of course. Holes. Have you heard of that one? Holes. That's a combination of Disney and Lucifer Pictures. Oh, I mean Phoenix Pictures. So the Sefer Yetzirah, the Zohar, and the Apocalypse are all the completest embodiments of occultism, according to Albert Pike. They contain more meaning than words. Their expressions are figurative as poetry and exact as numbers. The Apocalypse sums up, completes, and surpasses all the science of Abraham and of Solomon. The visions of Ezekiel by the Chebar and of the new symbolic temple are equally mysterious expressions, veiled by figures of the enigmatic dogmas of the Kabbalah, and their symbols are as little understood by the commentators as those of Freemasonry. All right. So the Sefer Yetzirah, the Zohar, and the Kabbalah are all based in this mystic Hebrew Kabbalism, which, just to show you a little bit, this is the Masonic Tree of Life. Wow, that light's really bad. I can't see that at all. It looks like a blank page. How weird. How odd is that? Okay, well, what it is the Tree of Life, which is used within Kabbalism, and I'm just trying to prove to you that these guys do base all of their works on Kabbalism so that you can start to understand the symbolism. But I can't show you that because, well, it doesn't show up on the camera, and they don't want you to know. Could they be that in control? I'll tell you, with some of the efforts I've gone through to put this show together, I really believe I'm battling fourth dimensional beings. All right, Shag, let's go to the phones, man. I want to take some calls, get you guys, hit me up with some questions or ideas or anything that you think about on this whole scenario. Let's pose some questions about what corporate logos might mean and some different ones that I might have missed, and just try and understand who controls the present. Hello.
Fag Bashers Unite! Fag Bashers!
I was watching Loose Change at 4 in the morning, okay? A lot of times I'm staying up all night. I've had a really weird week. And at 4 in the morning, this the guy plays Loose Change, and then he takes phone calls afterwards. And this guy calls up at 5 in the morning, It's like, I'm like, I got this guy. But he was great. Just the way he did it was pretty funny to me. Hello. Are you there?
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, I was curious. You talked about Euclidean geometry tonight, and it's like most symbols are Euclidean geometry. But I was curious if you had heard or if you knew that in crop circles, they found a new Euclidean geometric formula.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about that specifically, but I have been hearing about, deciphering hyperdimensional physics, tetrahedral dynamics, and other things from the crop circles.
Yeah, and it's all basically Euclidean geometry.
Well, at the same time, there is a crop circle with a pyramid with the rising sun behind it.
Yeah, and who does the crop circles?
Exactly. Exactly.
Take care, Freeman.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, see, that's a very good question that needs to be answered, because I absolutely found every single corporate logo that I discuss in crop circles. And there was the oblong square, the canted square. Of course, I mentioned the pyramid with the rising sun. And these were all within crop circles. So I personally believe that the Sirians and the Orions have returned to planet Earth. And I did show a little footage on that last 2 weeks ago. And I'm working on new stuff for you guys, so don't you worry. All right, let's try again. Hello. Oh, you're going to have to turn down your TV. Turn down your TV. Hello?
We've got it, okay.
All right.
Yeah, I want to know exactly, are you talking about Freemasonry, aliens, or Satanism?
Yes.
All the above?
Personally, defining Satan is a whole nother issue because there are certainly numerous Satans within the Bible, and it literally means adversary. So we're going to have to jump back to the ancient astronaut theory in order to understand that.
That's just what I was thinking.
Yeah. And if you go to my website, the freemanperspective.blogspot.com, I got a picture on there. I can't wait till I have a quicker. I can just say freeman.com. But no, you gotta Google the Freeman perspective. I got a picture of George Bush with the symbol of the Volkswagen, and
Yes.
what this is a Hebrew symbolism. Of course, it's all Hebrew symbolism, and in Hebrew, V equals 6.
Wait, he's Jewish?
No, none of these people are technically
Are
Jewish.
you?
None of them are actually of the line of Abraham and Shem. What they do is they practice Hebrew Kabbalism, which has been passed down through the ages.
So you're saying that the Freemasons practice Kabbalism?
Yeah, it's right here. I just read you.
So are you saying that Madonna is a Freemason?
Well, Madonna is a high priestess within this order, but she passed that on to Britney Spears with a kiss. And if you're interested in that, that's all in my Tex Mars video, which you can also find on my
bet
website.
she's got a crop circle in her twat.
Well, that was her whole point, you see. She was supposed to be a whore, and that's why she named herself Madonna, but now she's gone on to be called Esther, which is, of course, back to the Hebrew. Because at that moment when Britney and Madonna kissed, she passed the Madonna-ship on to Britney, who, of course, is a Mouseketeer, and back to Disney, and it goes round and round and round. Hello? Hello? Are you there? Did I keep you on hold too long? Hello? All right. Hello? Did we lose the phones? Hello?
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 Hello.
Hey.
Hey, Freeman, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right.
Yeah, I started to research a lot of this stuff within the last few years, and your research has kind of converged into what I've been researching, and I'm just more confused now than for a while I thought I had it figured out, and now I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure if it has to do with like you're talking about, like interdimensional type of beings or what have you.
Yeah.
You have to have a really open mind to get into this stuff.
You do. Yeah.
The funny thing to me is that I went for like 30 years without really knowing anything about this stuff. They don't teach anything about it in school.
No. They leave it out.
You know, you're kind of going into like an area that a lot of people might have a hard time with in terms of beings from other places. I have no problem with that personally because the diversity of the amount of life that's on this planet that we're on shows you that there's got to be life elsewhere.
Absolutely.
And then people get into this whole thing, well, nothing can travel past the speed of light, so it'd be impossible for them to get here. But, that doesn't, I have a really open mind.
Yeah, that's that's earthly type stuff that you're talking there, where we can't travel, because I've shown you hyperdimensional craft, which I'll bring back and show you again. And the lighting's just really poor for showing these pictures, but Solomon's temple was built by, the King Solomon, but he called upon King Hiram of Tyre,
right,
and used Hiram Abiff, who is the first master mason, to design it. Well, it turns out that Zechariah Sitchin. Have you gotten into the 12th planet?
No, I've seen some documentaries with Mr. Sitchin in them and stuff. Yeah, I've heard people try to debunk him and stuff too.
Oh, of course.
Say that he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Oh, no, you read that. Read the 12th planet and go back and read Genesis again, and it'll be a whole new story for you.
Well, I've got a lot of books on the Babylonian Genesis and just all kinds of, and it does cross over into Genesis. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people have, it's like we've been spoon-fed these ideas about religion and what Christianity is and what the Old Testament is. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's like with Freemasonry, let's say like 100 years ago, you were interested in religion, mm-hmm. and, you could go to church and you could get what they were giving you. And then it seemed like the Brotherhood was like, if you really want to know what's going on, you can join us,
Right.
and we'll give you a bunch of other books that they don't give you at churches. And I try to get into rare books and stuff.
Yeah,
and,
me too.
Yeah, I mean the internet kind of backfired on the control system, but they just kind of they say, well, you can't believe everything you read on the internet.
Yeah, you hear that a lot.
But to me it was like a lot of this stuff was way underground until the internet hit.
Big time.
And then now it's all there, like all these rare books and stuff, and you'll talk to certain people and they'll say, well, those people just made those books up.
Right. Well, it's for us to decide, and who cares what other people think. I'm not here trying to prove myself to you. I'm just talking about what I know. But, I got a bunch of that stuff linked to the website as well, sacred books, sacred texts that you can get the PDFs. But now if we look at American history and we just look at this one little list of Masonic presidents, which probably won't show up on there either, we got George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, Jackson, Polk, Buchanan, Johnson, Garfield, McKinley, Roosevelt, Taft, Harding, Roosevelt, Truman, and Ford. And to that you can add Reagan, Carter, and, I never did find out if Clinton was actually an initiated brother, but I'm sure he was.
I think he's in the order of de Molay.
Yeah, well, there you have it, which is the Boy Scouts of Freemasonry.
Right.
So, they didn't teach you that in school, did they?
No, well, the thing for me is that this has helped me figure out who I am in the world and how I got here. Because, like I was saying before, they didn't teach any of this stuff in school, right? But I had my whole family was involved in Freemasonry, probably
Mine as well.
Pretty much like yours. And I have like a great-great-grandfather that fought in the Civil War. The first introduction for me to Freemasonry was there's a monument to him at the Battle of Antietam, the Civil War.
Your great-grandfather?
Yeah,
oh, wow.
And he died there, and it's the brother-to-brother monument. And my dad ordered a little statue of this thing, and it's like he's giving his Masonic stuff to this other Mason that was on the other side. So, and I was talking to my family about this, and my dad wasn't a Mason, but I was telling my mom about how you could go into court, and if the judge was a brother and you were a brother, you could flash the signal of distress and get out, pretty much get off scot-free. Absolutely. And my dad said, yeah, those were the good old days.
Right. They know. But I wonder if it is the old days, if it's still going on. But these guys absolutely know. And in time, I'm going to connect this all to extraterrestrials and flying saucers, because you got to be initiated to go into space. You got to be initiated to track flying saucers. There's a big connection between Freemasonry and flying saucers, which I'm starting to work on documenting all of that.
Yeah, it's a really big subject, and all my life I've just wanted to know the answers to certain questions, and well,
a lot of things we can't know until the evidence has come forth.
Right, and what freaks me out is the Masonic connection to the Klan. The Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, a lot of people say Albert Pike started the Klan. There's not really any proof to that, but
well, I've seen he had a newspaper he owned in Tennessee. And I've seen the actual well, it was on the net. You can't believe everything you read on the net, but
believe a lot of it though.
It was like an editorial that he wrote in his own newspaper, where he said that Southern white men needed to form their own secret society, that only the members knew the names of the people involved. And I think that what they did was the Masons themselves actually created the Klan to take heat off of themselves.
Yeah, perhaps.
But I'll leave you with that.
All right. Well, thank you very much for
thank
all
you.
that. Okay, well, let's promote the metaphysical group. If you guys want to get deeper in on these topics and, have more than an hour with me face-to-face and talk a little bit, come out to the metaphysical group at Spider House Coffee Shop. And that is tomorrow night. That's 29th in Guadalupe, where souls converge. We've been having great times out here. There's beer, there's food, there's coffee. It's a good time. So come out to Spider House tomorrow night. We usually get there around 8 p.m. and stay there for a couple of 2-3 hours for sure. Lots of great people. It's a really good time. I'm hoping to see new people. I really always want to see new people out there because it's so much fun. All right. So we got about a little under 5 minutes on the show. Is there more to talk about here? Or should we go back to the calls? Let's hear you. Come on. Bring it to me fast.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi. Stepped in about towards the middle way of your program.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty much a novice when it comes to this, but could you elaborate more on the owl and other deities if there are some?
The baby here.
I saw Alex Jones' video on Bohemian Grove. Personally, I think that dude's kind of crazy, but there's relevance in the stuff that's being said.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everything he says is basically true. I mean, I personally have seen the FEMA's main distribution site there in Kansas City, ready to deport all of us to our concentration camps. Yeah. All these type of things are absolutely true that he's telling us. But the one point of contention that I do have with Alex's theories, and it's, because he doesn't study Kabbalism, I can understand that he doesn't know who the owl is.
Kabbalism is, man. I'm a novice. And
okay, Kabbalism's mystic Hebrew mysticism. I'll tell you what. Do you have the internet?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Google the Freeman perspective.
Okay. Yeah,
and you'll get a lot of backup information. But the owl is, of course, a symbol of death, a symbol of wisdom, a symbol of night vision, seeing through the veil. But she is a goddess. And you will find the owl connected with Athena, Minerva, Lilith, Ishtar, always with the goddess.
Who's the statue on top of the White House?
On top of the White House, I believe, is Persephone, who was the goddess that went to the underworld.
Yes.
On our capital, it is Venus, here in Austin.
You were talking about her earlier, weren't you?
Yeah. I mentioned her just in passing. I've got a whole video about that.
Where can I find this information?
Go to the Freeman Perspective. I've got a whole article on the owl.
I'll try to make it to the coffee house tomorrow night. That's
awesome.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was one thing that I have a problem with, the whole Molech thing. I mean, I understand why he chose Molech, because it's the one god he knows of that they burn babies to. But they absolutely made sacrifices to Ishtar, Athena, Venus. So don't be too confused by that. And I see it everywhere. It's in David Icke's book, and David Icke's Biggest Secret, which is a great book, man. I highly recommend getting this. I don't even have a cover left on it anymore. The Biggest Secret, he even says the owl Molech, and then you go to Alex Jones' website and he says the owl Molech, and then it says, even today, Molech is symbolized by the owl, and then below that they have a picture of Molech. Well, he's a bull, all right? Molech's a bull. Let's just have a look at that real quick. I'll show you this if we can see this in the picture within time. And the reason that this is important is because you need to, if we're going to get to the heart of what these guys are after, and if you recognize that most of their symbolism goes back to the goddess, and very little of it, and none of it goes to Molech. This doesn't have a picture of Molech. Molech is a bull. He is not an owl, and never has been represented as an owl, and I wish that whole thing would go away. I wish that we could start, because we need to understand what these things mean. And so from now on, start looking at your symbols, all right? And check them out. All right, play some music, Shag. It's been a good night, guys.